We observe a decrease in our merchant satisfactions. It became more visible after the arrival of new support agents. During this time, it is normal to have a dip in quality, but here it was too long and too significant. We had deeper problems. Agents were not really given a method. There was no quality check and they didn't have a searchable knowledge base. So method and knowledge, that's what we wanted to bring as the support had developed without much formal structure.
Hi, and welcome to Mission Ops Possible, a podcast for and by operation leaders. I am Guillaume, the head of marketing at Forest Admin. At Forest Admin, our team and our solutions are fully dedicated to operations, so we created a podcast fully dedicated to operations too. In each episode, I invite a different operation leader to speak about their vision, their tips, and their stories in the trenches. And on that front, today's guest is not going to disappoint. In this episode, my guest is Alexandre Criseo, who is the Director of Support and Operations at Fintecture. Fintecture is a French fintech reinventing payments. Hey Alexandre, thank you very much for joining me on this new episode of Mission Ops Possible. How are you doing today?
I'm perfectly great. Thanks a lot for inviting me. How things are going on your side?
My pleasure to have you. Really pumped up to discuss payments and operations in payments. It's always a great topic. First thing first, how would you describe Fintecture?
Fintecture is a French payment institution expanding across Europe. We focus on B2B payments, so companies paying other companies. We also work on the B2C side, especially for high basket purchases. So basically, it's all scenarios where credit cards don't work well. And in those cases, majority of payments are done with manual bank transfers or paper checks. So very old-fashioned methods, very slow, manual, time-consuming, and not really adapted to today's business needs. Plus, we are in a world where buyer expectations are evolving very fast. So the mission and the idea is that payments should no longer be a blocker, but more become a strategic growth driver. That's why we created a bunch of new payment methods to reinvent bank transfer so it can become modern, seamless, business aligned, I would say. Merchants can observe an increase in the average basket value, and 30% of the payments are captured from credit card paid transactions. We've passed 1 million payers. We processed over 5 billion euros in volume, and we have around 7,000 clients, including major brands like Leroy Merlin, Auchan, Aramis Auto, Edenred, and many others.
Right, how many people are you at Fintecture today?
60 people in France, in all other countries in Europe. We have employees in 5 or 6 different countries, but we are operating in way more than this. We have our banking licenses in all Europe. We can work and process payments in all these countries. But we focused on some countries next to France. So Spain, Italy, Germany, Netherlands, Portugal.
Great. When we were preparing for this, you told me that you had an interesting career path at Fintecture. You were not always in this role, right?
Yeah, I joined Fintecture almost 5 years ago now as the first product manager. And
Okay.
so the team grew and my job also evolved in it. So I moved from this role to lead PM to product operations director and now to my current job since beginning of 2025 as director of support and operations.
All right. Did you have one favorite role?
Well, the good thing I would say, even working in very fast scaling startup, is that you change your job basically every 6 months. Even if your
Yeah.
title doesn't change, the mission, the product will change. So I had that chance to work in almost all the products in Fintecture, and now even in different departments. Even if product support operations, they are very close areas in some ways. So it was quite a natural move.
In this podcast, I always like to have people speaking about challenges that they faced or the lessons they might have learned from this. You talk to me about moving to this role because there were issues in the client services. You were facing some challenges. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I would say it comes from a change of strategy and problems that we saw. For the change of strategy, very, very quickly, it was that initially support operations and account management were in the same team, customer success, and they started to have opposing objectives. So we wanted to split the teams, and so it made sense to include support and operations in the R&D, so product and tech, because we also wanted to simplify the products, focus on what we do best. Uh, In terms of challenges, we observe the past month phase of 2024 a decrease in our merchant satisfactions, both quantitatively and qualitatively. It became more and more visible after some reorganizations and the arrival of new support agents. During this time, it is normal to have a dip in quality, but here it was too long and too significant, and it indicated that we had deeper problems. We have very complex products, very different, customizable, a lot of use cases, even a huge range of clients. It goes from self-employed people to big retail leaders. What we saw is that agents were not really given always a method to answer or follow best practices. There was no quality check or evaluation to establish high customer support standards, and they didn't have a searchable knowledge base of past support cases to help them investigate and answer. So method and knowledge, that's what we wanted to bring as the support had developed without much formal structure.
Can you tell us more about bringing that structure into a startup, which is always a challenge because startups grow fast, and so at which point do you need to bring in more structure?
Yeah, I'm quite sure it's a very common problem. The biggest one for us is that we don't learn as much as we should from the past. When I was analyzing the past tickets, I saw questions that already come up 3 or 4 years ago, and still the answer wasn't documented anywhere properly. Documentation, it takes a lot of rigor, a lot of time. So before working on that, we work on simpler things like giving agents very clear guideline on how to close a chat, how to answer an email, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. With a product mindset, of course, coming from my background, so small iterations, discover user interviews to like avoid disruption. Something that we also did that could sound counterintuitive was to reopen outbound phone calls, which had been
Yeah.
closed 3 months before. You might think phone calls are a waste of time, they can distract agents, you cannot track them correctly, and so on. But we are also in the market where it's not possible to have only, I'd say, non-human contact.
Is this because of the complexity of the product or the level of personalization you have in it?
From that and also from the market, I think.
Okay.
So these clients also expect to have humans on the other side to make sure that we have a top tier customer service. Of course, it's easy to say that, but if we multiply by 10 our number of clients, I cannot expect to multiply my number of support agents by 10 or so. So we have to find solutions to maintain a very excellent quality of service with more tickets per agent.
It sounds like a case for automation, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say that exactly. That's where usually automation comes in.
And what have you done on that front? Clearly, we understand why you went to that direction, but did you bring also this product mindset that you were talking about in creating those automations?
Yeah, exactly. Historically, we focused and invested a lot on our external products, so the one dedicated to our clients, and not on internal products or internal processes.
Is that not a classic thing in startups? You invest into what is going to drive growth or whatever external metrics, and not so much necessarily on what makes life easier and more productive in-house?
Probably, yeah.
Probably,
It's very
yeah.
it's very normal because that's how you manage to sell your products to clients, and
Yeah.
also you can way better track the return on investment, saying, okay, I spent that much money to do that product, and I can sell it already. While investing internally, it's basically investing on people at some point. At the beginning, you can say it's okay, we can do like that, we can do manual tasks, but you're gonna reach a point where you cannot do that anymore. It can even be too late. You can even actually got cases where you cannot sell anymore your product or launch it at scale because your operations are not ready to do that. So it's a long-term investment. That's probably harder to detect it at the very beginning. But I'm quite convinced if you don't do it at some point, you're gonna have the drawbacks at some point also.
What type of tools, what type of automation have you set in place?
An example I could talk about is support escalations. An agent can usually escalate to two different teams, either the R&D, so through Jira, or internally on Slack. On this, at first, I look at what these tools were offering natively, And we even considered switching tools to find better integrations between the tools. We gave up quite quickly on this. And at one point, I thought, can't I just develop the integration myself?
Hmm.
I don't have any experience in web development. I have a scientific engineering background, but no web development. 3 years ago, something like that would probably have taken me 6 months before I could launch anything. But now with Gen AI and that kind of tools, Intercom Slack integration took me 1 week.
That is crazy what we can do these days. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very huge game changer, actually. We often talk about how AI can automate tasks, which is true, and probably
Yeah.
talk about that later. But it's also a very huge opportunity for self-empowerment, and especially for non-technical people. That changes a lot, I think, for many individuals. It probably also change the roles within companies. As a manager, I can now have a huge impact on my team by also contributing individually, and that's quite new.
And do you think this change to a more hybrid role is going to be something we see in many ops teams going forward? A, because
Um,
it's more simple, and B, because it makes them more autonomous. And I would say that also it avoids being dependent on a tech team for internal
ex-
tooling.
exactly. You said it. I was in product, so prioritization processes, roadmaps, so that kind of operation topics. It could take months before it is included in one of the squad roadmap and developed. So it changed a lot of things. It of course depends also on the context. Here, my approach was how can I be the most useful for the team, for our objectives, and in this context, with a team of 6, 7 people, with limited resources, with the background I have, you feel that it is where I have the possibility to solve a lot of problems directly. And it takes a lot of time at the beginning because of the discovery, to understand how the process should
Yeah.
be, what's a good approach. So I prefer to spend my time on it because the team was already managing all the daily tasks. And after that, when the discovery is done, when you want to accelerate, this is where you will train your team and delegate to them so they can develop, innovate by themselves. At the end, the manager cannot be the only one. It should not be the opposite,
Yeah.
because as many of the topics will become, again, the bottleneck of your team.
Mhm.
That's also a way to get your hands dirty at some point. It's not only for ops, it's probably for all the departments. If you don't do it, from what I saw, you have a big risk of failure because you need to understand how things are really working within your team if you want to solve anything and make them progress.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think it's something we're going to see, as you say, across many teams. Brings me to another question. What are the tools in your ops stack or your support stack today?
We're using Slack for internal communications, but not only, we are using it a lot for notifications, for instance. Intercom as our support tool for chat and emails. Notion for the documentation. So Jira for the R&D. HubSpot for the CRM. Lego for the invoices management. And Forest Admin as our internal back office. It is almost as each team is using a different tool also. That's also a big risk because each team could have its own processes, its own way to feed data, and very quickly you're in a situation where, for instance, the company pricing is feed out by 3 different teams on 3 different tools at 3 different times of the flow.
Is integration a key challenge for you, or has it been before?
Yeah, problem to have incurring data, and it's very hard to know what the good data is, and all the time you consume and repeating the same things over and over and over. So yeah, it is key, and my advice on this would be try to push as soon as possible because if you wait, it's very hard to do the change. Of course, at the beginning, it has its advantages to have everything not linked because you're very flexible. You can make any change on the spot. It won't impact everything else. But at the time when you want to scale, you want to make tools talk to each other, if you want to put AI on it, you're going to need the link between these different tools.
Yeah, in modern operation, you cannot go into separate silos that don't speak to each other and have different information. You need that one source of truth.
Yeah, I can take again the company pricing example, for instance. It was not connected to anything. It gives the sales team, I would say, creativity on the pricing. And that's very great for them. It gave a lot of results. But from an ops point of view, after some years of that, oof, It's very difficult to automate this afterwards. I cannot modify my client's pricing. It's too late. It's very difficult to fix the past. That's why I took the angle to build integrations within the ops team. That way I can try to iterate and to fix the things. If we wanted to do that on the company level, we will need to align between 3 or 4 different teams, put that in the roadmap for 3 months. And I know for a fact that the roadmap is going to change very quickly because of a client, because of specific product. So that's also a way to have a huge impact within the whole company without the need to include everyone because you don't have any more this R&D development.
Pricing is a key information, but you also mentioned earlier that there were changes with capturing knowledge. How did you go after this issue? How did you tackle this issue?
For the knowledge, we faced also knowledge loss because of what we discussed about tools not always connected, products complex. So, of course, when someone who's been in the company for 3 or 4 years leaves, well, they take with them a lot of the company's knowledge. That probably impacts mainly 2 departments, go-to-market and the support team. Not that much R&D because we have a lot of documentation through the specs, through the tickets. On the support side, I joined the department at the beginning of the year, so we cannot solve everything at once. The issue for the knowledge was how to answer a ticket, while most of the times, 90% of the times, it is not a new ticket, it's not a new problem. It's something that is on an existing product or an existing problem.
It's something you faced before.
Yeah, probably happened even years ago. So the problem is the knowledge exists somewhere, but it's not documented or the team cannot find
Mhm.
it. So the very first solution, I've been in Fintecture for a long time. I work on all the products and the product manager helping us in the team. So between the two of us, we were able to answer 95% of the tickets based on our experience. But to be honest, I'm just delaying the problem here because if one of us leaves, the same issue come
Yeah.
back again. So to make sure it doesn't happen anymore, we believe the answer is on a very strict case documentation. For each ticket, we should be able to document what was the client problem, what investigation did the agents do, and what was the solution. That way, over time, when an agent receives a new ticket, they can search and support quickly. Challenge here, of course, is that building that kind of database is very time consuming and I cannot ask agent to fill out a form manually every case. It's not scalable.
Yeah.
So we're starting to work on this now with automations and the new tools that we have.
Any AI you're using in there?
Yeah, this is what's going to happen. Both automation and AI here. So our documentation tool is Notion because you cannot do that on Intercom. But so on Notion, when a ticket is closed, I can auto generate a page there with all the logs, all the info, the context, and after use GenAI to summarize the case. That way, the page is almost ready. You're gonna need still a human validation, of course, but we save a lot of time. Even psychologically, actually, to say an agent, you have to validate something. It's way different than telling him, you have to go on Notion, go on this page, click here, fill out these different fields. Um, it's not the same thing.
When you can use AI to remove some tasks that people really don't like to do or that they feel are going to be time consuming and not necessarily delivering for them, it's always a great use case.
Exactly, yeah. This is what we're gonna do for the future, at least. For the past knowledge, it's different. It's probably actually where AI agents can also help, but it's not gonna have to be all the processes.
All right. That brings us also to what AI is bringing overall in ops and support. Any other use cases you've had for AI or that you are going to have in the coming months?
Yeah. Before use cases, I have to talk about limitations. We have 2 limitations at Fintecture. The first one is we want to keep human contact, not just because of the type of clients we have, because it's really a belief. I don't want to say we offer excellent customer service, premium product, and at the same time let robots talk to clients. It has to be humans. Our clients expect it, and I'm not even sure an AI could do this job today. It's not only support, not only about giving the right answer. It's also humans, talking to humans with empathy, with
Yeah.
emotions. And the second limitation is the compliance one. We are a regulated payment institution, so we have very strict rules about data, about GDPR, especially when it comes to pushing data to external
Mhm.
tools. So basically, we need to build our own AI agents. And so, of course, it takes time. I cannot just plug a tool and that's it. We have to do almost everything ourselves. So that's our limitations. In terms of what we can do, I see two main use cases. First is helping agents write better answers, correction of grammar, adjusting the tone of voice, make sure it matches our
Yeah.
guidelines. It's not a priority for us for now because we don't think that there is a huge problem on
Yeah.
that. Even on the translation side, we don't have this need for now.
And is this discussions you also have with your team or the agents in your team seeing this
Mm.
AI arrival? Because there's been so many talks about AI agents and things like that.
Yeah. A lot of things. As every big technology change, you have way more use cases existing that going to be used actually. So yeah, we talked about that. We're gonna want to work a lot on that kind of topics. The main thing is about finding where it can be useful for the team. I was referring to helping them answer, but at the same time, this is not where it takes the more time for us.
Do your agents come up with ideas about where they could be using automation or AI?
On the past 6 months, not that much because it was not our
Mm.
priority. We had to solve very short-term problems about satisfaction, answer time. So we really focused on a lot of different projects for this. Not that much about AI. But yeah, this is something that we're gonna do for the next 6 months phase, developing AI skills.
Yeah.
Again, two ways of doing it, either by automating
Yeah.
things, so really from a department point of view, streamlining the processes, or again, self-empowerment. I think for each individual, you can really make your job easier if you take the time and investment. So to guide them with like very practical projects on how AI can change things, it's probably the best way to see really what could be the impact of such a technology.
How do you help your team get on the bandwagon of AI as well? Any training you have for them?
It can be online training or just sharing the experience and taking time on it. My role as the manager here is to find the good projects where I can guess that AI could be relevant for them. It means dedicating time for that and also, well, removing other projects.
Yeah, and it's not on top of the rest. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be instead of other things. That also means that for the very short term, probably in terms of support KPIs, we can have some downgrade, but the company agrees to do that as it's really like a long-term investment.
When you're thinking about this long-term investment in your people, do you think that through AI you might make their jobs more qualitative or it might be driving more job satisfaction, for instance?
Yeah, I think it can be a virtuous cycle.
Mm.
Okay, I would take some time on this, but when I launch the project, it will make me gain time, and so I can focus on another one, another one, another one. And so you can see really quickly the effect of that. In any case, I'm quite convinced that from a job market point of view, it's gonna be mandatory to have AI skills. Just like English was, or Excel, or computer literacy. So it is also the manager role to make sure the team is trained on this to prepare for the next step. So will be
Yeah, that makes total sense. We're getting to the end of this. On top of what we said, do you think there are other changes coming to you, probably from AI or from other innovations?
we are quite convinced that AI is gonna transform not just support, but really everything. It's gonna be a revolution, the same way the internet was. So you need to embrace it because if you don't, another company will, and clearly they will win the race. That's the first thing. But the goal is not to replace people. It is to empower them because at the end of the day, it should still be a human deciding on the fraud case. But it will completely change the way we work. We probably have to change our way of thinking of that. It means that it's not about iterating on current processes, but probably to try to rethink everything from scratch. How can we now redesign completely the way we built these processes or the way we integrated this tool? And that's what we want to do next semester. So I will be happy at the end of year to tell you how it went. But yeah, you have to think in 2 years, 3 years, I believe that AI will evolve this way. So what can I do today to be prepared for that? And so by thinking this way, we can actually get there. That's the mindset we really want to have in the company now.
Yeah, it's interesting your take. It needs to be a virtuous cycle for sure. Some people have been saying AI is going to replace everybody. Some people have this fear, but you're on something profound there. If there is this virtuous cycle, as every innovation, I would say, in human history, this can bring us further and enhance the roles that we'll have. All right. Any final thoughts on that?
Well, we covered a lot, but yeah, I would insist on what you just said. It's like it's a revolution, but humans has to be kept on the center of that. And even on the operation side, when we say investing on operation side, actually it's mean investing on people. So we have to not forget that. I hope that thinking that way, things will be way interesting, way exciting for the next years.
That's a nice way to end this podcast. Thank you very much, Alexandre. Let's see if we can get you back to give us a bit of those results on the project you were talking about.
With pleasure. Thank you, Guillaume.
Thank you, Alexandre.
Have a nice day.
Bye bye.